Out of the blue, we see Benedict Wong attack the teacher when she's with Josh Brolin. We have no idea how he got into the circumstance that's put him here. And then in the next arc, you see him with his partner, and all
Mm.
you're thinking is, oh, something bad's coming.
Yeah,
It's like, it's
absolutely.
such good filmmaking to be able to
Mm.
create that foreshadowing and that sense of dread
You ought
that
to
this
be in
character is done
pictures.
for.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what
So,
a
Steve, I thought one of the
you
films we
would
have to
be.
talk about that is out at the moment is Weapons, the new movie from Zach Cregger that I think has surprised everybody. It's done far better at the box office than anybody had anticipated. It's a movie that kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, Zach Cregger's previous movie, Barbarian, did quite well. But I saw it and I urged you to go see it. You have now seen it. What did you think?
I'm so glad I saw it, but I've got a quick story to tell you, James, about going to see it. We went to IFC Cinema here. I went to see it,
Mm,
and it was after work, and I found out my wife was nearby in the city. So I messaged her. I said, "Listen, I'm going to see this movie called Weapons, but it's a bit of a horror movie. I know it's not your favorite thing, but I know you're in the area. If you want to join me, it starts at 4:50." And then I don't hear anything back from her. So I get a ticket, I get my popcorn, I get my Coke Zero, and I'm all set. And just when the movie's like the trailer's ending and you see the movie's getting ready to start, she messages, "Oh, I'm in the mall now. I'm coming." And I thought, okay, well, I'm in house two. I'm in this
this
seat.
seat, yeah.
And then I'm watching the movie's going. It's about 2 or 3 minutes, but I'm kind of distracted because I'm looking to see if she's coming in. And then my phone lights up, and I hate doing this during a movie, but I'm checking. I know you're giving me but I think, hey, I'd rather have angry people around me than my angry wife. And so I check, and she said, "Did you leave the ticket for me?" And so I messaged. I said, "No, buy one because I didn't know you were coming." Well, it turns out her battery died, and so she didn't get that message. And so like another 5 minutes go by, going, "What's going on?" So finally she comes down with the usher, and he's got the flashlight, and the usher seats her next to me. And because the movie's going, I'm not going to find out anything. So I just quickly get her up to speed on what's happened for the first 10 minutes. On the way home, we're piecing together the puzzle. And because I told her it was a review, she got it in her mind. It was one of the free review tickets that we get sometimes with a
Okay.
+1. She thought she had a +1, which I brought her to in times past. So she's at the box office going, "No, my husband's reviewing this film and he left a +1 for me." And they finally just gave up and let her come in for free. They
Oh,
ushered her
nice.
next to me.
Okay. Okay.
So she
She
laughed on the
Karened her
ferry
way into
home.
a free movie, basically.
She watched Weapons for free.
Bravo, Tammy. Well done. Yeah. Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
And she liked it. And she's not a horror
Did
film.
she? Okay. Now
Yes.
I mean, great, but that does
Yeah.
surprise me.
This movie is so engaging, so well done. The way non-linear storyline, sometimes in films that works and sometimes
Mm.
it doesn't. And I felt in this film it accentuated certain points and story plots in a way that just kept me on the edge of my seat.
Yeah. I mean, going in, I knew very, very little about it, and I knew from his previous film, Barbarian, which is a film that you should definitely watch, but you should definitely watch cold. You know, the less you know
Mhm.
about that movie, the better. I chose just to do the same anyway. But the buzz coming off it was very, very good. They were like, it's a different thing or whatever. So I was like, okay, I really don't know what this is about at all. I knew Josh Brolin and Julia Garner were in it, and that was essentially it. And I think that's the best way to go in because, yeah, it's a mystery more than anything else. You know, rather than a
Yes.
full blown horror movie. I mean, this has kind of notes of almost Twin Peaks about it. You know,
Yes.
there's a kind of sort of small town, middle America. I think it's in Georgia, or it was filmed
Yeah.
in Georgia. And there is potentially there is a murder. You know that these children go missing at least. So children are ripped from their families, and you don't know what's going on. And I didn't even know that it was being told from multiple points of view.
Mhm.
So it just begins, and I'm like, okay, this is really, really interesting. This almost feels like, I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know that it was going into sort of witchcraft or any of the things that it was going to
Yeah.
touch on later. And I was like, this feels like an allegory for like a school shooting
Yeah.
or something like that. Because very quickly, suddenly this community has been rocked by a whole load of children just being stripped away from these families, and there's no one to blame. They've got no answers, so they turn on the school, they turn on the teacher, and they even turn on the one or two survivors. You're like, yeah, there's this sense of sort of palpable grief, but panic and frustration and anger in this community. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then that does kind of sort of peter out as you go along, but particularly when Archer, I think his name is Josh Brolin's character, finds the house and sees that sort of automatic rifle in the clouds, hovering over. I was like, oh, I think I'm right about this. Yeah. I think I've got this spot on. But after that, it kind of turns into a very, very different kind of movie. But that's not to say it gets worse or anything like that. Arguably, it just shifts, and then it continues to shift. And with each new perspective, almost like the tone of it changes slightly, and it sort of emulates a different horror movie, whether it's Twin Peaks or something like It Follows, or even later on something like Long Legs. There's a little bit of that in there. There's a little bit of sort of folk horror in an urban setting kind of thing. And I was like, okay, this is a real sort of nice melting pot, really intriguing, really intelligent, really engaging. And by the end, I was just like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, that's just to echo that thought. The first half of the film, in Hong Kong, we don't have a rating system like in the UK or the US. It's 1, 2, and 3. This is category 3. It's the highest rating. And halfway through this, I'm going, why is this a category 3? This is not a big deal.
Absolutely.
And then the last quarter of the movie, the last third of the film, you're like, oh, that's why it's a category 3.
Well, it's when Gladys shows up at the teacher's house, with the gay teacher and his partner. And that's when it all suddenly takes a turn. You're like, whoa, okay, this is
this is where this is going now. And I wanted to just say with Josh Brolin, originally Pedro Pascal was cast for this role.
Right.
And I was trying subsequently to envision what Pedro Pascal would have been like in that. And I'm sure he would have been fine. I mean, he's a great actor, despite the fact that he seems to be oversaturated in films these days. So it was good to not see him in this movie and to see Josh Brolin, who brings such a riveting performance of a father whose whole essence of life has been ripped from him. And you talked earlier about how this whole town has been just rocked. That's what I loved about this film initially, the first half of it. The psychological dance of scapegoating. What will happen to a community when a horrible, tragic event has occurred and they have no one to blame, and they have all this anxiety and this fear and this anger and this need for retribution, and they have no target for it. And to watch them all try to figure out, do we go in the principal? Do we go in the school? Finally, it's the teacher. It's got to be the teacher. And although we're pretty much convinced from an early part of this film, she actually is innocent. She has nothing to do with this. And that's what makes it all the more frightening, is how quickly this town just wanted to tear her apart. Josh Brolin wanting to just... like, I need to talk to you. I have you there. You had to have done something. I have
questions. Yes.
I have questions. The dance this film does, or the change it makes between a psychological thriller and then a horror movie. You almost get like 2 for 1 with weapons.
Yeah, and isn't she kind of like a new teacher at that school? And there was she left her last job under a cloud, and obviously she's had problems with alcohol in the past and things like that. And she's it's not sexually or anything like that, but she's being inappropriate with her relationships with children. She drove one home or something and put an arm around one. So nothing that is actually wrong in any way. And it's just her being sort of... But
as a teacher myself, has definitely broken certain child protection protocols.
I think that's the right word. She's broken protocols, on occasion. And all of these things that when you snowball them in the court of public opinion... that can single you out as the villain quite easily. Mm-hmm. So I found it great. I think it capitalized well on the mystery side of things. Yeah. And I think, if I'm completely honest, I think if there is one slight it's not a misstep. They didn't do anything wrong, but I think because of the way that it's told, the film is told like Rashomon style, right? Which is the euphemism that you use, the Akira Kurosawa movie that introduced this idea of multiple perspectives, and it's a movie that we have been meaning to do for a long, long, long time because it's fab and we love Kurosawa. Is that by the time you get to the kind of finale, there isn't really any mystery left.
Right.
You know, I think by the time you get to is it Gladys or no, it's Alex, isn't it? Who has the final chapter? I'm not sure. I don't think it's Gladys.
I think it's Alex.
Yeah. You're kind of like, okay, you've pieced all the pieces together by then, and then the finale just lets rip really and plays out. And I would have liked, I think, if they had still held back a little bit and just made the finale that much more revealing. You know, whether you were still a little unclear whether she was really a witch or whether she was just a kooky aunt or whatever. But other than that, I really enjoyed the kind of the shifts of tone. I mean, sometimes we do criticize movies for being sort of tonally all over the place, but this one, it felt measured and deliberate in its decisions to move from one to the next, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking on that, there are certain logical holes in this film. And before we go further, if you want to solve a logical hole, why don't you go ahead? You know, the logical thing to do right now is to subscribe to Deep Dive Movie Reviews. Just go ahead and hit that button right now. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Like, subscribe, etc., etc.
That's it. You know, Alex's home has got newspaper in all the windows. And all I kept thinking is he is like one of the central characters in this police investigation, the disappearance of all these kids. Nobody's gone, or no neighbors have gone and said, hey, you know, the kid that is in the news every day, his house has got newspapers in all the windows.
His house is weird.
Yeah, so there are some logical gaps in this film that you just have to say, listen, you just got to work with it a little bit. But I will say, I think the scariest moment, or the first scariest moment for me, and really showed me what a long camera angle can do to change how scary something can be, is when the teacher falls asleep in the car outside of Alex's home, and that door opens, and it's the long angle shot of the mother, and we don't know it's the mother yet, but just as like she appears in the doorway and she does that little dance thingy, scared the shite out of me. I was like, that was one of the freakiest moments. And even as I'm describing it, viewers may be saying, that doesn't sound that scary. Watch it, because that is brilliant filmmaking. That's the way that you use technique to build a sense of suspense and horror. And Zach Cregger, I think, has learned how to do some tricks to take everything up to 11.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's just so unsettling. It's like in a sort of like a classic David Lynch style sort of white picket fence kind of suburban setting, just to have something that is ever so slightly off like that. Just the way somebody comes out of their house and walks funny. You're like, okay, this is weird. At a moment when she's vulnerable because she's asleep, incredibly. I mean, but we have to talk about Amy Madigan. Because it took me the whole movie. I mean, I didn't recognize her in the moment, but the whole way through, I'm like, I know this actress. I know who this is.
Props to Tammy. She picked it up before I did. She whispers in my ear suddenly when Gladys is talking. She goes, "That's the actress from Field of Dreams."
That's what I know her from as well. Yeah,
that's Amy Madigan. And then once I've seen it, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah, I mean, because that's such a fabulous performance. You know, because it's a performance that could so easily have just been so stupid, and so weird. But, she comes in, she's a force of nature. She's so strange. She's so eccentric, but in a way that totally disarms everybody, the teachers and the police and everybody like that. And I think that that's true. When you meet someone that's so odd like that, who is so forthcoming, and so kind of up in your face, it does immediately put you on the back foot. When people are behaving slightly strangely, you can exert a little bit of authority and be like, oh, okay, listen, we have some orders, we have certain protocols we have to put in place. But when someone is so just bizarre and otherworldly like that, it really does wrong foot you.
Yeah.
when you have
Yeah.
to sort of deal with them in an intimate situation, and they end up sort of taking control of the situation and just kind of guiding you the way it's going to go. And I think how her scenes, when she shows up at the school and when she shows up at the police, or when people come to her door, is what works so well, is because it's really hard to manage somebody like that.
Yeah.
Even if they are benevolent, as
Yeah.
she certainly isn't. But and I thought it was really, really well handled, and obviously comes to a fabulous conclusion at the end.
That's a good insight. I don't know if you just saw the news, but it looks like Zach Cregger now wants to do a prequel movie with Amy Madigan playing Aunt Gladys again. Because apparently in the nonlinear storytelling, there was an Aunt Gladys arc.
Okay.
And for structural reasons and for time, he removed that arc. But he had all this story, and what he wants to do is flesh it out more and turn it into a full prequel.
There's definitely demand for more. It's
I'd go
done
see it.
way.
Sign me up. I'd go see that
Definitely.
one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it performed way better than I think anyone was anticipating. It's interesting that the horror movies seem to be overperforming this year. We were saying the same things about Sinners a few months ago.
Yeah.
They were like, okay, this is an interesting movie. It came out and it just sort of blew the box office apart. I mean, not sort of it's been beaten by other movies, but for what it is. Sinners made about $250 million in the States or something. And,
on what budget? A much smaller budget.
Yeah, crazy. And Weapons is doing not the same numbers yet, but it's doing very, very healthy business for what it is. It's a movie that could so easily have gone under the radar and be one of those movies that people at the end of the year were going, oh, everybody slept on Weapons, but it's really, really good. But they haven't, and kudos to them. But it only goes to show that nobody. I don't care whether you're like a filmmaker, a film studio, a journalist, or whatever. Nobody can predict really what's going to be a hit and what isn't. Year on year, it's wrong foots us all the time, every time. And when it happens this way round, I couldn't be happier.
Sounds like the reviews, a deep dive movie reviews. Just never know what's going to hit.
Well, exactly. So why don't you help us maintain a bit of consistency? Leave a comment. Engage with the post, like it, share it. It really does help us, bubble to the top of the algorithm. The majority of our audience comes from YouTube recommending this video, putting the video in your feed and in other people's feeds. So help us get this video and others of our videos into other people's feeds by just watching it and engaging with it.
James, one of the things else I liked about the film was, as I'm watching it, the narrator at the beginning's words kept coming back to me. A lot of people are going to die in this and die badly, or something along those lines. And the way the character development works in this film with Cregger's, I think does a wonderful job, in that you really care about the Julie Garner teacher character. After a while, you feel real empathy for what she's had to go through. You feel the agony that Josh Brolin is feeling. I mean, even the cop and the not the, I don't want to say pimp, the narcotic kid,
the
drug dealer.
Addict. Sorry, drug addict. He's not a dealer.
You start to have a real affinity, and yet some of them die and some of them don't. And I was glad, at least, that it wasn't a mass genocide of all the characters that I cared about in this film. It's what the narrator said. Some people are going to die, and they're going to die badly, and they do, but it has a mostly happy ending. And so I left feeling like, wow, because if it had been just a total downer, I don't think I would have had the same wanting to promote it and just telling everybody how great it is as I did when I came out of it last week.
I mean, I'm not sure I quite agree with you that it has a happy ending. I mean,
I said a somewhat happy ending. I said there's a caveat there.
The kids are found alive and well, maybe.
And some are talking again.
Some are apparently started talking again, and hopefully some more of them will. But I mean, I think the suggestion is, they have very little blood on their hands. They've been through an ordeal that was emotionally scarring, manipulative, and then just aggressively violent, and they were the ones meting out the violence. So they are going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives, whether they remain in a catatonic state or not. But yeah, sure, they're reunited with their families.
Yeah,
But I think
yeah,
that's in a way where how it kind of circles almost back to being about something like a school
yeah,
shooting or something, is that they almost become the classmates that did survive,
yeah,
and it's like
yeah,
how do you process being exposed to something that violent, that shocking at
yeah,
such a young age, and be expected to just move on and go and just say, well, this, it's daily life, it was unavoidable or whatever,
yeah, yeah.
and so I think I don't know what point in the process, but what I imagine is that early on in the process he had this idea that I want to tell a story that's kind of an allegory for high school violence, school shootings, gun
Mhm.
violence, whatever. Um, and then it became intertwined with a story about sort of witchcraft
Witchcraft.
and
Which is
and it does work, but I think I get a feeling that it was all intentional, and it was probably there early doors.
yeah. So James, as we draw this to a close, what unit of measurement do we want to use for weapons? I the thing that instantly comes to mind
Mm.
is the peeler on the
Oh, okay.
how many cheek peelers can we
I did see that in some markets, press and what have you at preview screenings were given one of those
oh
with their ticket. Because we sometimes get the little premiums.
yeah,
Our
yeah.
screening, we got a tin of soup,
Oh yeah.
but it had something else in it. I can't remember what it had because I didn't keep mine. Yeah, we could do that, or we could do sort of thorny wands, or
Tony
children
ones.
running like this, or
When Benedict Wong does it, it's just and this is another thing I love about the film with the nonlinear storytelling. Out of the blue, we see Benedict Wong attack the teacher when she's with Josh Brolin. We have no idea how he got into the circumstance that's put him here. And then in the next arc, you see him with his partner, and all
Mm.
you're thinking is, "Oh, something bad's coming."
Yeah,
It's like
absolutely.
it's such good filmmaking to be able
Mm.
to create that foreshadowing and that sense of dread that this character is done for.
And I
So,
think one thing we didn't mention yet is that it is quite funny at times as
oh,
well. There's a real
thank
dark
you.
sense
Yes.
of humor to it. Like poor Alden Ehrenreich, who plays the cop, he goes through such a sort of comedy of errors, like when he gets stabbed in the face with needles
Yeah.
and things like that. There are some really funny moments of gallows humor in it, which I
There,
appreciate.
there was a fair bit of people in the cinema that I went to see it in, and they were physically laughing out loud. And I thought that's a sign of a really good movie, is a good horror film, is
Mm.
there's laughter
You
involved.
need that release.
Yeah,
If it's building tension like that. So yeah, it worked. It worked as a comedy too.
yeah.
I wouldn't
So
call it a comedy. I'd say there are
no,
moments of
no,
levity.
no, no. What happens to Aunt Gladys is not funny. It's
It's
definitely
retribution,
it's
but
it's it's is it cathartic?
cathartic.
Cathartic.
Yeah.
It's very cathartic. How many cheek peelers are we going to give to weapons, James?
I mean, I came out of the movie and I gave it a rock solid 4, like immediately. I was kind of like, yeah, okay, that was good. That was really good. And I saw it. Well, it's over a week ago. I saw it now, and it's really sort of percolated in my mind pretty much non-stop to the point where I'm like, no, I think it's better than that.
Yeah,
It's really good. I'd like to see it again because my wife didn't see it, and I
yeah,
think she would like it. She likes horror movies, so I might end up going if I get some time. I end up going seeing it again.
yeah.
Um, but I'm actually going to bump it up because
Oh,
I really think that this is one of the the best movies. I mean, let's be honest, it hasn't been a great year so far, but there
no.
have been a couple of like standout movies, and I think that this is one that people are going to be talking about come the end of the year and certainly thinking about. So for now, why not? I like to blow a little air in their sails, if that's an expression, and I'm going to go all 5 just because why
Excellent.
not?
I'm not quite ready to give it a 5, but a solid 4.5. To me, this is in the genre that it is housed in. Um, it's hard to do better. I mean, this is I think an exceptionally well done horror film because it's not just a horror film. It's a psychological thriller. There's comedy elements, as we talked about. There are genuine characters that we want to root for. You mentioned the policeman. I hated that he got it in the end because I liked him and he had such a comedy of errors dealing with that drug addict. And I didn't have any sympathy. Like I'm thinking you were totally within your rights to do what you did because that guy is an idiot. And
Yep.
but be that as it may, I'm going to give it a solid 4.5. This is a movie I highly recommend. And I imagine if you're watching this, you've already seen it because you just want to talk about it and we've given spoilers galore. But tell a friend because I'd love to see this kind of movie get more traction. So more get made like it and guys like Zach Cregger get the green lights to make more films.
Absolutely. So let us know what you thought of Weapons down in the bottom in the comments. As I said before, do like, do subscribe, watch one of our other videos because we've got a lot and we've got a lot of stuff. So go do that right now. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
You're wonderful to see. You ought to be in pictures. Oh, what a hit you would be. Your voice